flex on the bench
The
training.
team's triple crown, leading the Lions with a 360.
We're named first team all Southland Conference.
Southeastern, a winning season.
Hustling and making a play.
14-0 against Alcorn. In soccer, the defending Southland
off with a 3-game shot.
Hello everyone and welcome to Lion Tracks. I'm John Sartori, joined today by Southeastern head football coach, Coach Ron Roberts. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So before we get into the regular season, obviously you go through the spring, and it was a really, there's a lot of question marks for you guys, especially we're going to start at the quarterback position. You lose Deshae Landor and Justin Allo. Donovan Isom is a guy who's been here a few years, and you have Lorenzo Nunez transferring from South Carolina. So just take us through that battle and what ultimately led to Lorenzo getting that job.
Yeah, it was a tight battle. I mean, really, going through spring, you know, I thought it was a pretty tight battle going on. Coming into fall camp, I thought really, I mean, obviously Lorenzo did his work in the summertime, preparing and getting ready, got familiar with the offense. Just really in our scrimmages and things, when we got him in those live situations, he just showed a dynamic ability to not only run the offense, but he could extend plays. He gave you an added dimension, ability to, when things break down, he can still make things happen. He's very athletic, and I thought he was better off obviously running our option game as well.
And then on the outside, the wideouts, Jawan Dickey returns this year, but you lose Brandon Acker and you bring in Niger Jackson, and you got Jawan returning kicks for you. So talk a little bit about what they've meant to your receiving corps, because they've been big in the first few weeks for you guys.
Yeah, I think you know, our receiving corps. I mean, obviously we lost Acker. That was pretty big production loss. But Jawan Dickey was our leading receiver. Niger was here in the spring, had a great spring. He had a lot of other veterans in that group, guys. Jake and Graffia, Javon Connor. You got Jocko Price in there, and so there's guys that have been in the games and they've played, and we really feel it's a pretty experienced core group we're putting up there.
In the backfield, Eugene Bethe's finally getting his opportunity to start for you guys, and this is going to be a backfield, probably the strongest backfield you had in a few years, because you got Darren Johnson, you got Julius Marcelin, who's going to come back off of injury, and then you got Eugene back there as well.
Yeah, again, it's a spot we feel real comfortable with. I think we've got a couple freshmen. Obviously, I think as the season progresses, you're going to see them get into that mix. Right now, I think coming out of the gates early, there's, still learning the offense. They're still not quite ready. We've got to be able to get them in the right time and be able to put them in so they can have some success. You want them to have success when they first get their first reps. So I think that's a pretty good group that we're going to be able to throw out there.
And I can't forget to mention the offensive line. You've said it a few times. This is probably the biggest offensive line you've had in your time here, and they've done a great job for the first few weeks, especially in the UL game, as they really dominated that defensive line.
Right. Yeah. I think we've got some veterans up there. We've got some older guys, but the biggest thing we have depth. We've got enough guys there that we've got two redshirt freshmen, fifth-year guys at guards, and Michael Vick and Travis Romero, and those guys kind of lead the way. And but we've got enough depth in there, obviously, that the guys are, when somebody gets hurt, something goes wrong, whatever else, we can put other guys in there. And that's always a huge plus.
Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, the secondary has been pretty good for you guys so far. A lot of guys coming over from special teams getting starting roles this year.
Yeah, so we've got guys that are getting their first big opportunity to go in there and be the guy. And they're feeling their way through it. I thought we've had some huge bright spots at times. I think Mayor Elson is playing really well right now. And there's some other guys again that you're hoping they're going to, as this season progresses, I think you're going to see them play a lot better. And
then the linebacking core, probably the most veteran position group that you have on defense this year.
Yeah, well, we got three. So you expect them to act like seniors and represent themselves well and take control and be a group that we can really count on. When you talk about whether it was Jake Giannone and Lee Spite, those guys obviously do, and Sione Tuomi. So obviously, but those three seniors really do a great job and give us a solid foundation, consistency in the defense.
And finally, before we get into the regular season, the defensive line was probably the biggest question mark defensively for you guys, and they really showed up last week. You got a lot of pressure on the quarterback against Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, I mean, it's a group that's getting better every week. I mean, we've seen drastic progression really in the last 3 weeks. Are they not where we want to be yet? We're still not playing on the grading system up to what we're asking to do, but they all show ability and promise. They're just, again, they're all new, and most of them getting their first college start. So obviously that happens. There's not just a jitter thing, but there's obviously a learning process too, and be able to do that. But we have high hopes for that group. It's going to be a good group down the road, and again, I really expect them to get better every week.
Finally, getting into the regular season, you open up the season at UL Lafayette, and compared to last year when you opened up against Oklahoma State, you went in there with a chance to win. You had a chance to compete and almost pulled it out. You had the 2-point conversion at the end. Just a really, really strong effort from you guys opening weekend.
Yeah, I thought it's just a different group going in to prepare. They weren't as big-eyed. They weren't as scared. We got guys that have been there, and enough of them have been there and been in those games and played. So they're a little more calmer about going at it, and we're a little more, obviously, more experienced across the board. Not where we want to be, obviously, and we could have played a lot better in that ball game. But a huge test out the gate, and I thought our guys responded to it.
In that game, the special teams was big for you, and it was also a real negative for you guys. You know, you led up the 2 kickoff return touchdowns, but also
huge.
Max Lyons was huge in his first game returning punts.
Right. We had some bright spots off our return units, kickoff return, punt return. Max was huge, obviously. Returning one for touchdown, gets the other one inside the 5. Those are huge. Coverage units did not do well. We went around for game 2. Again, we moved some personnel around. We had to make some switches, some changes in there to try to make sure get guys in spots they do best. But it was pretty simple about it. It was just guys really, just be out of position and not reading the right keys, not being where they're supposed to be.
We talked about Eugene Bethea earlier, but that was a breakout game for him, over 150 yards of rushing, and you had over 300 yards rushing as a team in that game. And so is that something that you expected, or because you guys dominated the defensive line for UL?
I don't know if we expected it. We thought we were going to have the ability to run the football. We really expect that in every week we should be able to run the football, and didn't just by the way they were playing us and stuff. We had advantage, obviously, that there's some things that we could take advantage of, and we just kept going at it.
And then finally, the play of Lorenzo Nunez, even at the time South Carolina, was viewed more as a scrambler, probably still is, but that 95-yard drive to get the team in position for the 2-point conversion, he showed great touch passing the football, and he really did all game minus the 1 interception. Yeah,
I really was pleased how he played. Just not only running the football, commanding the offense, throwing the football, did everything. His ability, we saw his ability to, when things break down, to create some plays with his athletic ability to get out of a pocket and still get some positive yards out of it. Those things are huge. It's a quarterback-driven. College football is driven by your quarterback. It really is, and he brings an asset to the table for our offense.
Going into week 2, you welcome Bethune-Cookman in. They lost 41-13 against Miami in week 1, so they took on a good opponent as well. So, historically a very strong program. They come into Strawberry Stadium. They get a 28-23 win over y'all.
Yep. Again, it was probably more. It was a disappointing game across the board. I think not to say anything take away from Bethune-Cookman. I thought coming in they're a good football team. We knew they were going to be in a bounce back year. When we scheduled this game a couple years ago, they were a top 10 team. I think they are. They're a top 25 team right now. But we did not. I don't think we made the consistency progression from week 1 to week 2 that I was hoping for. There was opportunities on the table. Someone you got to give credit to. Their quarterback played an outstanding game. He's a veteran. It's kind of what you expect. He's a senior quarterback. Threw the ball well, but got him out of more trouble than anything. I think we missed 6-7 sacks in that ball game. We had him in sights, in the grasp, and didn't get him down. And he turns around and gets first downs out of him and continues drives alive. So that was a huge disappointment right there. And our guys, I think they all realize that, and we're looking forward to get back on field again.
In that ball game, you forced a lot of turnovers, had a lot of chances to put touchdowns on the board, and just couldn't finish drives in that ball game.
Yeah, when you get turnovers inside the red zone, you're really hoping you need turnovers into touchdowns. I know the one early we didn't, and we got in the red zone, came away with 3 times with field goals, and again, we just got to be able to execute down there and be able to find ways to get the ball in the end zone.
Haven't talked about it yet, but you'd like touchdowns, but when you've put the field goal unit out there, Dylan Burkhardt, it's his first year place kicker for you guys. He's been very consistent.
Yeah, he had a great spring, great fall camp. He gets the ball up quick. It's hard for him to get pressure or block it, and he's been really consistent. So I think he's going to be a huge asset for us this year. And
then you fixed some of the special teams gaps. You didn't have any big returns for the most part in that game. And then Jawan gets the kickoff return touchdown early in the 4th quarter. So the special teams have been very strong for you guys from week 1 and week 2.
I thought we corrected some things. Again, it wasn't as ideally as the way we liked it, but we did make some corrections in the coverage units. I thought they got better. But I think our kickoff return took a huge step of seeing what's possibly out there if we do take care of our job and do things right.
Closing the book on week 2, moving into week 3, obviously a lot of Lion fans were wondering where Lorenzo Nunez was. So if you can, I don't know if you can touch on it, but is he going to be available in week 3? We
plan on him being available for week 3. He should be hopefully practicing Tuesday. He strained his MCL in his knee, and so that's kind of a day by day. But he's moving better every day and getting the mobility back in his knee, and so hopefully he should be on the trip to Central Arkansas.
Talk about Central Arkansas. That was a game last year that I know that you'd like to have back. Yep. They come in here and they really embarrassed us here. Yep. And so you open up Southland Conference play. So what do you expect from this year's Central Arkansas squad?
They're good football. They're the same thing. I mean, I think they're a top 20 team. I think they're ranked they're ranked in the top 15 right now. They're offensively, it goes around their quarterback. He is a playmaker. He's a guy that gets them out of trouble, makes great decisions. Kind of really circles around that guy. Yeah, they're big and they're physical up front. They run the ball well, but it really goes around him because every time they get in those terminal down situations, third downs, and he finds ways to keep them on the field and keep drives alive. Great player, so that's going to be a huge part of that. It's how we're going to handle him and make sure we really got to make sure we keep him, contained, not let him get out and create some plays. Because once he does get on the perimeter, he makes a lot of throws down the field and makes some huge plays out of it.
Second year in a row, you have an 0-2 start, but also one of your playoff appearances was with an 0-2 start. So, what is the message to the team as we go into week 3?
Well, the message is as simple as stick with the plan. Is that we saw some things coming in week 2 that we wanted to get corrected. We don't feel we didn't do that completely as we liked. Didn't play as consistent. Wanted to get some other guys more into the can-do category to get more depth on the field. We just got to continue to work. That's what you use the preseason for. These 2 games, you use it to evaluate where you are for conference play, and whether you're 2-0 or 0-2 right now, you're still sending the same message that this is now you're playing for keeps.
All right, thanks so much, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Southeastern head football coach, Coach Ron Roberts. When we return, we'll have Southeastern head soccer coach Chris McBride on the desk right here on Lion Tracks.
The Southeastern channel offers a lot for a sports fan.
Coaches shows, interviews with student athletes.
Football games, baseball games, basketball games.
I enjoy watching the coaches' insight programs after on Lion Tracks because it does give our fans an insight of what happened during the game.
I enjoy watching the big game. It gives me an opportunity to keep up with Southeastern athletics on a weekly basis. Not just football, baseball, basketball, but even the smaller sports, like soccer and volleyball.
One of the things I've enjoyed most through the years watching is the production of the glory years.
It's a history, it's a documentation of where we've come from around here.
Solidified the reason why we brought Southeastern football back.
When the Southeastern channel replays games, it helps the students be able to catch up and see what's going on.
I like to watch the baseball games and the football games.
It's the only time I get to watch Southeastern football is I get to see it on television. I don't ever have time to go.
Even athletics can be an educational experience when you involve the Southeastern channel.
Welcome back to Lion Tracks, everybody. I'm John Sartori, joined now by Southeastern head soccer coach, Coach Chris McBride. Coach, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
First time we're having you on the show, and so you might be a stranger to some Lion fans who don't follow soccer that much. So just tell us, where you come from, where your coaching stops before here, and what ultimately led you to Southeastern.
So originally I'm from Scotland. I came over here in 2007. I played college soccer myself up at a school called Martin Methodist up in Pulaski, Tennessee. I spent 4 years there, and then I coached a year on the women's side there. We won conference tournament, made it to the national tournament. The next year, I took a graduate assistant position at the University of North Alabama, Division II school in the Gulf South Conference. Spent 4 years in total there. Spent a year and a half as a GA, and then I opened up and became the full-time assistant. So after 4 years there, I had an opportunity to go down and work at the University of South Alabama, which I took last February. I spent the long part of 10 months there, and then took the position here on November 29th of last year.
All right, and so getting into, before we get into the games that have happened so far this season, it's a much different philosophy from a coaching standpoint from years past, the head coaching that has been here. So what is your coaching strategy, and what's the kind of soccer that you like to play?
So what we've been working on right now is obviously a lot more with us with the ball rather than just kind of playing it over the top and going and chasing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just with the players that we have currently on the team, the players that we'll be recruiting, and what our girls want to do with the ball, is better for us to have it than us to just chase it. You know, we've got a lot of good soccer players on the team, and they want to play. So we've been working on building out the back. We've been connecting a lot of balls through the middle third into the final third. It's a lot of decision making. You know, I think a lot of the girls right now are being mentally exhausted rather than physically exhausted, which is a good thing. Physically, we're preparing them as best as we can for the games, but the mental side of it, all the decisions that they have to make during the game, that's what's taking an effect on them right now. But they responded well when we first got here in the end of November, and we started up spring ball in January. It was good to see the ball out and moving, and girls were excited to be touching the ball and moving it and making decisions instead of just having one role. They had to make choices, and they're learning. And what we as a coaching staff want to do is educate the game. You know, we want to teach the game, and we know it's not going to happen overnight, and it's a process. But the girls have been very responsive, and they all want to learn. Everyone wants to come in and do extra sessions, watch extra film, and I think that's a benefit of teaching the game rather than just having one particular. This is what we'll do. You know, teach decisions and teach different opportunities, and the girls have responded well. We've been very lucky to have a group of players that wanted to adopt that. It could have been different if we wanted to come in as a staff and have that style, and the girls wanted something different, but that's what they wanted as well. So it worked out really well, and I think that's what's seen some positive effects right now.
First game of your head coaching career, you welcome in Jackson State, and you're able to shut them out here at home. So first head coaching win of your career, and had to be nice. Yeah,
really good. You know, it's always nervous with your first game. You never know what's going to happen, but opening up at home with a crowd that day was fantastic. We had a lot of support out there, and I think that goes for being in Strawberry Stadium. A lot of students were there, a lot of family, a lot of friends, a lot of staff were there as well. It was good for the support, and everyone was excited. Adrenaline was going, excitement was there, and no one was forgetting any roles and responsibilities that day because everyone wanted to get a piece of the action. And it really helped. You know, we had people all over the field taking shots. We had people in different positions scoring goals, and it worked out well. So it was nice for me to get the nerves out. You know, after the first game to get a win. So it was good.
After that opening win, you go on that road swing, you lose to Georgia State, and then tough loss in overtime to Alabama State. So, but those are just learning curves with a young team that you have.
Absolutely. You know, we've got 10 freshmen. I think at the Georgia State game, we started 6 freshmen that game. Which is obviously, you know, 11 field players, and we've got 6 of them being freshmen. It was the first road trip. It was the first time that 10 girls had to experience a 8-9 hour bus ride. So that was new, and it was a learning experience. That's a good way of putting it. It was a learning curve. We went out there, we had to face some adversity, and we faced it, and we came up well. You know, the first half was a little nervous. It goes back to the new coaching style. We encourage them, you know, we make decisions. If you make a mistake, we move forward. We learn and we move forward. And that game in particular, where we're still nervous to make mistakes, we felt as if we made a mistake, we're going to get punished for it. And that's not the case. It's a learning process. We educate the game, educate decisions, and that's what it comes down to. So, and then we played Alabama State on the Sunday. When that game came, that was tough in itself because you're playing at 1 o'clock after playing on a Friday. But without making excuses and reasons, the biggest impact was that they didn't play on Friday. So the physical side of if you play on a Friday and turn around and play on a Sunday, the turnaround's 36 hours. You know you're not going to be at 100%. So when you play a team that hasn't played since last Tuesday and they play Sunday instead of Friday, they obviously have an advantage. So it was an open-ended game, and we missed a penalty kick in regulation, and they scored on a penalty on overtime, and it was just a tired legs making a lunging challenge that gave away a penalty. And yeah, it was a learning process. We walked away from it, we learned something, and we put it into play the following weekend.
You talked about it earlier. The crowds have been very strong, especially when you compare them to years past. And so you wrapped up non-conference play with a 2-1-1 record. The only loss coming to UL Lafayette in a 1-0 game. Again, another game where you really lost on a penalty kick. So just talk a little bit more about what kind of atmosphere you've built at Strawberry Stadium. And the crowds have been great, and the team has in turn played very well at home.
We have. We've been very good at home, and we've also been very good away, to be honest, as well. I think the only game that we could have gained more from was the Georgia State game, giving away 3 goals in the first half. I think we could have given more there. But at home, the crowds have been fantastic. The girls have made a big presence on campus. They've made connections, and that's what it's about. Is making connections and being the face of soccer and being the face of athletics and going out and supporting. You know, the whole team went out to the football game. They go to volleyball games. It's connecting with the athletic department. We're a school as well, and we all need to support each other. So I think it goes in correlation of just being as one, you know, and having everyone supporting everyone, and the crowds have been great, and it's really helping at home as well, to be honest. It really is. So the UL game, the penalty kick, we kind of live and die by the penalty kick right now, you know, because we scored one at Jackson State, missed one at Alabama State, gave one up at Alabama State, and gave one up at UL. So the good thing to go is if we're only giving away penalty kicks, those are little tiny decisions that happen in a game. If we can shut them out, then we stop a lot of goals going in, and if we don't concede, we're going to win some games.
And then the final non-conference road game you had was against the school that you came from, South Alabama. So talk a little bit about going back there and the performance that your girls put in, because the score really doesn't reflect the performance that you guys put out.
Absolutely not. So I got so many calls and text messages after that game that just said you guys were incredible, and what happened was that we went in with a game plan and we executed the game plan perfectly. They scored a good goal from distance. It was about 30 yards out, and for someone to turn around and score a goal from 30 yards out, you'll take your hat off and say, if that's where you're going to score, that's a good goal. So they scored a good goal. It wasn't really an error on our part. And then it got to be the 80th minute, and then me and my assistant had a chat on the sideline, and we said, listen, this is non-conference. This isn't conference play. No one counts goals, so it doesn't matter if we've got +2, -2. It doesn't matter how it goes. Said a loss is a loss, and a win's a win. If we lose 5-0, we lose 1-0. We go home with a loss. Let's go for it. So we went and chased the game, and we put some pressure on them and put more pressure on them, and then they scored 2 late goals because we were applying so much pressure. So that game was really good. It was good to see as well, because that's probably the toughest team we'll play all year. They finished last year ranked 43 in the country. So playing against a team of that opponent really prepares us for conference, and we know now as a team, when we face teams that are going to attack like they attacked and move the ball like they moved the ball, we will be able to handle it.
Before we get into conference play, talk a little bit about the recruiting strategy you're going with, because there's a lot of international players, a lot of out-of-state players. There's not many in-state players, and most of the in-state players are players that you brought in who are freshmen this year. So talk a little bit about the recruiting strategy and what Southeastern fans can expect differently in the upcoming years.
For us, we'll recruit the best players. It doesn't matter if they're in-state, they're out-of-state, they're international. We'll recruit the best players, and we'll find a system to play around these best players. So this year we brought in a couple of local girls. We are currently recruiting several girls for 2018 and 2019 that are local as well, and that goes on to the fact of we have good soccer in the area, but like you mentioned, we don't have them on the roster, so we have to look at ourselves as a staff and figure out why we can't get those players. So we're doing whatever we can to get those players, because if they're good enough, they'll play. Regardless whether from Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Alabama, we recruit the best players. The internationals that are coming in, you know, we've always had some internationals. We'll get some new, different internationals this year with the German and the English girls, and they've fit in well. And obviously we still get some California girls on the team. So for us, we'll just go out recruiting and hit the road again. We'll find some girls that want to come to Louisiana. There's quite a lot of them want to come here. It's a nice area. It's a really good school. And it helps having a very diverse roster, because then they've got more connections all over the place that want to come here.
And finally, Coach, as you go into Southland Conference play now, we kind of backed into the tournament last year in that 6th spot, and then 2 years ago, you know, Southeastern were champions. So as you go into conference play, what are your expectations, and where do you want to be at the end of the regular season? Where do you see your team? So last year we got in there. 2 years ago we finished 4th, I believe, and we won the tournament. And then we finished 4th again, I believe, in 2013 and won it. I don't think we haven't won the regular season since 2007. If I'm not mistaken, it could have been a year later. So for us, we know that conference is going to be tough. We play against some very strong teams. And on previous records, even when they've been successful, getting that #1 spot in conference has been tough. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we're as competitive as possible in conference, but we want to make sure we're peaking at the right time. We don't want to peak the 1st and 2nd week of conference. We want to make sure that we're consistent throughout, and then towards the end of the season, when conference tournament starts, that's when we are peaking and we are at our best, and we're playing the best soccer we can play. So for this year, we'll take it one game at a time. Obviously, first up is McNeese this Friday. That's the most important game of our season. And then next Friday, when we open up against Abilene Christian at home, that'll be our most important game of the year.
It's just every game at a time. Everyone in the conference is getting stronger. Everyone has had some really good results this year. McNeese drew Wyoming last weekend. They beat UL. So they've been doing well, you know. So we'll just take one game at a time. We'll get the best as we can, obviously at home with the crowd that we're getting and the support we have. We want to be as successful as we can at home. And the teams that are coming here this year, we want to give them a good test and make sure we can try and get a win at home. And then when we go on the road, we'll make it as difficult as possible for them.
All right, thanks so much, Coach.
Thank you.
Southeastern head soccer coach, Coach Chris McBride. We'd like to thank Southeastern head football coach Ron Roberts for joining us early in the program. And we thank you for watching Lion Tracks. For more information on Lion Athletics, visit www.lionsports.net. For Lion Tracks, I'm John Sartori.